What's up, everybody, and welcome back into Dunkel Productions. Now, today we are back with fantasy football talk with the man himself, Connor. Connor, how you doing, man? I know last week we weren't able to do this. You were feeling a little under the weather. Connor's feeling better, man. Connor, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited. It was a crazy week this week. Got some money on the back of Uncle Lenny. He came up big, 4 touchdowns. So it was a good week.
Yeah, we'll start right there with Leonard Fournette. Now, I had 2 people in my household on Sunday, Connor, that had Leonard Fournette in fantasy, and it was an electric scene in my household as Leonard Fournette ran for that 4th touchdown.
Oh my God!
Take us through you deciding to play Leonard Fournette against a red hot Colts defense. What went into that decision, and why are you happy that you made that decision? Obviously.
The way I actually got money off of him was I did a snake draft. So me and a couple other people put $5 on it, and we all drafted our teams just for that week. And he just fell to me. And everyone's so high on Brady last week because that Indy defense is giving up a lot of pass yards. But Lenny he's got that potential any week on that offense that scores so many points. Someone's got to score. And when Brady's not throwing them in, it's pretty much just Leonard. I mean, Ronald Jones still got one, but when there's 5 touchdowns, I mean, I guess it's all right if Ronald takes one.
Yeah, and I mean, we're kind of seeing that. Like last year, it was more 50-50 between Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Now you're starting to see Fournette really take the amount of the snaps kind of away, and that job is now his. I believe at the running back 1 position, and I think he's a great play every week as we go down the stretch here.
He's a lot.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers obviously in the mix to get a 1 seed, so he's going to be a guy that you can play probably all the way till the end, and he's going to have value. But Connor, let's talk a little bit about Cooper Kupp and something that I kind of noticed this weekend. Now, we talked about this the first time we talked fantasy football. We talked about how Odell might steal targets from Cooper Kupp. I think that's starting to become more evident than I had even anticipated. Last weekend, not getting the targets he really should be getting at Green Bay, which the Packers won that game pretty handily. We'll get to them in a minute. But what are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp? And do you think now that Odell's there, he's a guy that you might be concerned about getting top-tier fantasy value?
I think he's a guy. I think he is now closer to where you drafted him, because at the beginning of the season, I mean, he was ridiculous. The dude couldn't stop scoring touchdowns. But now, and Van Jefferson is coming on too. They're just feeding him the ball too now. So he should have had another touchdown last week. But Cooper Kupp's still a stud. What do you have? Yeah, 7 for 96. He's still, you have to play him every week. But yeah, I don't think you can expect those 35-point weeks every single week like he was doing for a while, because he was unstoppable, and he still is, but they got to spread the ball around a little bit. So, I don't know. He's a stud, though. He's him and Devontae on the same field. Oh, Devontae kind of had the same game where it was just like other guys. I mean, they just shared the wealth. So,
and that goes to my point. I think I have Aaron Rodgers, obviously, kind of like I was telling you before. And I think Aaron Rodgers is a guy that, is a top-tier quarterback right now for fantasy football, if not the best. He looks back to that last year MVP level. He's spreading the ball around, too, which I think is big. And him and Devontae seem to really be in sync right now. I don't know if you saw that 35-yard throw on the sideline, but it's like Devontae's got 3 guys around him, including Jalen Ramsey, and it's almost like a layup for those guys, which is unbelievable.
It's every single week. I mean, they triple team him, and he still goes out there and puts up 100 yards. It's unfair. I can't put Rodgers at my top overall quarterback just because of the slow pace, They play a slow pace, and he doesn't have the rushing like a guy like Josh Allen, but he's got to be up there. He's an easy start every week, that's for sure.
Now let's talk a little bit of defense here. The New England Patriots defense. I don't know what is going on with them, but it seems like every week you're getting 10, 15, 20 points out of this defense. Are they the top of the top in the fantasy leaderboard for defense right now, Connor? Is there another play that you've really been liking lately?
Goodness sakes, I'm looking at their box scores, and they've had 13 plus in the last 6 games. That's ridiculous from a defense. But you also got to take into account who they're playing in those games, and to close up the season, if you can sell the Patriots defense, I would move them, because to close the season, it's Buffalo, then you got a bye week, then you got Indy coming in with Jonathan Taylor, and that's their weakness. I mean, they gave up 200-yard rushers this last week, and then you got Buffalo again, and then Jacksonville. So, I mean, I'm willing to sell high to avoid that. I mean, if you can hold, if you're in that good of a position just to play them against Jacksonville, I mean, that's good shape. You got to have a good team, though, for that. You got to be pretty set. But I think it's a defense you sell high on right now, just because those matchups coming up they're tough. They're tough teams, man.
Yeah, but like it seems to me like with the Chargers game, everybody was telling, sit New England's defense. Even last week, people were like, I'm not sure if you really want to start their defense. I mean, this defense is playing at a really high level. I think the first Buffalo game is going to be really telling to see where this defense goes, because
Absolutely.
if they go out there and put up a performance, let's say even close to what they did last week, this New England Patriots team is different, and they are definitely rolling now.
I'm just looking at it. They had 5 forced fumbles last week.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's Darius Leonard type numbers. That's why you got to play the Colts defense too. But
and Connor, now Zeke versus Tony Pollard. A big debate is kind of starting there in the fantasy world. Who should you start every week? Jerry Jones did come out and say that Zeke is going to get a quote heavy workload versus the New Orleans Saints. But who's the guy that you would prefer to start right now, Tony Pollard or Zeke Elliott?
It's got to be Zeke. When you look at it, it's just he's on the field more. That's all it is. He's on the field. It's right now, last 4 or 5 weeks, it's a 60-40 split, and I think Pollard's the better running back, personally. I think he's the better player, but when they get in close, who's going to get those goal line touches? It's Zeke. I mean, Pollard only has 1 rushing touchdown this year. He's only got 1 touchdown total. Goodness sakes. But when he gets the ball in space, he's unstoppable, but they're just feeding Zeke. They still feed him behind that O-line. I think you have to stick with them, but I think Dallas is making a mistake personally, because Tony looks great.
Yeah, and I think last week you kind of saw that Pollard kind of had that burst that we didn't see from Zeke. Now, I know Zeke's been banged up. They've obviously talked about it numerous times on the ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown Game Day morning. We talked about it 2 weeks ago on our Sunday show, and that's why I picked against the Cowboys. I forget who they were playing, but
this good pick.
Yeah, this Cowboys team really needs to figure it out, because the Washington football team's lurking, and obviously in a loaded NFC. You do not want to be the 4 seed and have to travel to, either Green Bay, Tampa, or probably Arizona in that second round. That's a tough game. So, but Connor, let's look ahead to this week now, man. We kind of got an interesting slate this week. There's some games that could be good. There's some games that are really good, and there's some games that I think could just be blowouts. But what are some of your plays of the week this week, and who are you really targeting?
I mean, obviously Jonathan Taylor going up against Houston. I mean, he could have 250 and 3 touchdowns by halftime. Honestly, when they just give him the ball, he's unstoppable. Honestly, I'm not scared to go away from anyone on Atlanta. Atlanta's got Tampa coming to town this week, and they seem to put up points against Tampa every time. Even earlier this year, they put up 25. They had a good week. So I'm not scared to go away from Patterson. I mean, Cordero looks unstoppable. He is just something else. Who else we got this week? That Minnesota-Detroit game, I think Justin Jefferson looks good. He's torn up Detroit every single time he's played them.
Yep.
Every single time. What do you think about the backup running backs in that game? Because you got Cook hurt, you got Swift hurt. You playing both Madison and Williams if you got them?
I do think so, because here's the thing is the Vikings offense is predicated on the run game. They're going to run the ball. Madison's going to get touches. And then for the Lions, I mean, Jared Goff, they keep saying that he's not injured, but I think there's definitely something going on with his shoulder. They've been running their running backs with the two running back systems a lot lately. So I think those guys are both starts. I would say Madison's the better start if you have both of them.
Yeah, because Madison's actually, I think he played. I know he started this year against Detroit, and I think he started last year against them. And both times he put up like 2 touchdowns, 100+ yards. Like he's better than Cook when Cook's healthy, just because Cook has to deal with Madison, where he's by himself. He gets the full workload. So I think he's probably a top 5 play this week. Honestly, I mean, you gotta lock him in. What other games we got? We got Rams Jacksonville. That's just a blowout. Come on.
I like Stafford, Kupp, Odell, Van Jefferson. I would stack, if you have like Odell and Kupp, I would stack that. You have Kupp and Stafford, stack that. You're going up against Jacksonville. The one thing, Connor, that I do think is interesting this week is the matchups that is kind of catching my eye here is Washington at the Raiders.
Yep.
I think Josh Jacobs, J.D. McKissick are great plays in this one. Guys who can catch and run the football. McKissick had a big week against Seattle last week, and he's also not even the starter in Washington. So I think you could get him for a pretty good place.
I'm not 100% McKissick's going to play, just because I heard he got carted off, and then they say now he's in concussion protocol. But if he doesn't play, Antonio Gibson looks like another top 10 play, because when McKissick went down last week, they fed him the ball. I think he saw the ball 36 times last week. I think he got 36 touches. And if he gets those touchdowns this week, I mean, he would have had a 40-point week last week. He racked up a lot of yards. And Josh Jacobs, they just keep feeding him. I'm not a huge Josh Jacobs guy, but and those are both guys in DFS too that I'm looking to play, just because I think they'll be lower owned, and I think that game has big potential to possibly blow out, because I could see it being a shootout, or I could see it being an ugly like 20-15 game, 2017, something like that. So, in a game like that, you gotta stack it and hope stuff goes off.
Yep. And also another thing that I will say, I would stay away from Baltimore and Pittsburgh players this weekend. In that rivalry game, it's always tough. It's always physical. It's always low scoring, unless the offenses are just that great, which I don't think either offense is very good. The Ravens turn the ball over a lot, and Pittsburgh, I think Big Ben's a little old right now, not looking the best. So I would stay away from Baltimore. I would stay away from Lamar and Big Ben this week.
Where would Lamar rank for you though? Because he's still got to be a top 5 play, right?
For me, I mean, here's the thing: is I'll take Brady over him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take Mahomes. I'll probably take Josh Allen because they're at home.
Yep.
Is Kyler Murray gonna play?
Right now he put in a limited practice today. I think he might play, but I don't see why they rush him back against the Bears, especially with Colt McCoy looking like Tom Brady out there going. I think he was like 33 for 38 with 300 yards last time. I mean, he looks fantastic.
Yeah, I would say Lamar's like a top 7 to 9 play for me this week.
Okay, so you're still starting him for the most part, but
I'm still starting him, but I would tell you this: if you have a guy on the bench that you trust, might not be a bad idea to throw him in there.
no, I think that's fair. But I mean, I'm still starting Hollywood. I'm still starting Deontay Johnson. I think Claypool's got to have one of his big games soon because they're short on weapons.
Yeah.
And I think eventually he's getting the targets. So one of these times he's going to connect on a 60-yarder and have a big day. So yeah, but no, for regular fantasy football, I'm probably staying away from guys like Claypool just because he's that big boom and bust. But like for DFS, I might play him a little bit just because you got to take your chances, you know?
Right. And real quick, Connor, before we wrap this up tonight, Thursday Night Football, Dallas at the Saints. Taysom Hill playing quarterback for the Saints. How do you think he's going to do this week? Do you think he's a possible start in fantasy?
I think he has to be. I mean, every time he gets out there, he does make some mistakes. I'm not going to lie. He's thrown a lot of interceptions in his short time, but if Alvin's out there, just because of Taysom's running ability and the way he takes away in the red zone, I think that makes Alvin Kamara I think it makes him like a top 20 play, just because Taysom takes a lot in the red zone. He takes a lot of looks and he does a lot by himself. So I think Taysom's definitely a play, but I mean, I don't think you can play any New Orleans pass catcher because they're all nothing. I mean, maybe Traquan if you have to. But no, I think that's a game Dallas probably. I mean, they should win. They should. We'll see.
Well, that's what we've been saying about Dallas a couple times this year. It'll be really interesting. Connor, the one thing I know, fantasy football talk. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hope you guys found this informational. If you guys have any fantasy football thoughts, please drop them in the comments. Also, make sure you guys subscribe and hit the bell notification. We're on the road to 300 subscribers. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification to get notified when we go live, when we post videos, all that good stuff. Connor, thank you so much for joining me, man. Glad you're feeling better. And we'll catch you all next week here on the Dunkel Productions Fantasy Football Talk.
Peace.